Esta generación no se imagina lo terrible que era la dictadura de Trujillo, said Manolo Tavares Mirabal, Minerva Mirabal's youngest son.
The Mirabal sisters, also known as Las Mariposas, were three monumental and brave women in history. Worldwide, they have become icons of justice, feminism, liberty, and selflessness. These three inspiring women found a way to advocate for themselves and for the people of the Dominican Republic during the conflicted reign of tyrant Rafael Trujillo. Exceeding the frontiers set by their nation, the death of both the sisters and Trujillo created a compromise, which assembled a strong and liberal government. Las Mariposas were prominent heroes in the movement against Dominican dictator Rafael Trujillo. They actively participated in the protests against the dictator and were seen as souls of resistance. Trujillo resented this, which caused him to have the sisters assassinated. Eventually, the 14th of June movement built up enough momentum, planting a small seed for the revolution that was to come. The movement consisted of a group of organized activists, connected by their internal resistance against Trujillo. Once the 14th of June movement took full effect, it infuriated Trujillo greatly. He had hundreds of members arrested and sent to La Cuarenta, his infamous torture prison. Accounted with around 50,000 killings during his rule, Trujillo said, "If you plot against me again, I will cut off your head, be you man or woman."
Rafael Trujillo Molina was born to a middle-class family on October 24th in 1891. He was raised in a small village outside of San Cristobal, Dominican Republic. In early 1930, Trujillo named himself a candidate in the new presidential elections. To assure his position in office, he created La 42, a small gang sought out to pursue, intimidate, and kill people that were in opposition of Trujillo's campaign. As a result, he assumed office on May 24th in 1930. Eventually, La 42 turned into Trujillo's secret police force called the SIM, the Service of Military Intelligence, a widespread network of spies that would censor the press, threaten, or kill anyone who questioned his power. Once someone was being followed by the SIM, their deaths or disappearances would be made to look like an accident or a suicide. Shortly after Trujillo's election, the Dominican capital, Santo Domingo, was crushed by a hurricane, giving Trujillo an excuse to deceive all Dominican citizens, imposing martial law and emergency taxes that seized the bank accounts of people who opposed him. The following 6 years were spent in renovation of the Dominican Republic, also an excuse to erect various Trujillo monuments. Santo Domingo was even renamed Ciudad Trujillo. Trujillo held presidency until 1938, then selected his brother Hector and Joaquin Balaguer as puppet successors until he took office again in 1942, ruling up to his death in 1961.
Y dijo, solo tengo dos problemas, la Iglesia Católica y la familia Mirabal. Ay, nosotros nos desesperamos cuando vimos esas noticias, Dios mío. Como que pienso, le sigue los pasos a mi familia.
Just as many of the Dominican citizens, the courageous Mirabal sisters were very unhappy with the type of man leading their country. At the head of all the operations was the third oldest sister, Minerva Mirabal, first to join the movement because her friends' relatives had been arrested, tortured, and killed by Trujillo's men. It is believed that Minerva was the first of the sisters targeted by Trujillo after turning down his sexual advances and even slapping him at a social gathering. From this point on, Trujillo began to terrorize Minerva, barring her from classes during her second year of law school until agreeing to give a public speech explaining Trujillo's greatness. Even after graduating summa cum laude years later, the government denied her the ability to practice law. In one instance, the Mirabal sisters' father was imprisoned and tortured. When Minerva and her mother went to visit him, they were captured, imprisoned, and would only be released if Minerva agreed to sleep with Trujillo. To the dictator's discontent, she refused. Eventually, they were freed. Courageous as she was, Minerva once stated, "Si me matan, sacaré los brazos de la tumba y seré más fuerte."
The second sister involved was the eldest of the sisters, Patria Mercedes Mirabal. At the age of 17, she married a farmer named Pedro Gonzalez. After witnessing a massacre by Trujillo's men while at a religious retreat, the couple became very involved in the movement and even had their home taken because of it. They were very supportive of Minerva and in opposition of Trujillo because they were concerned with the future of their children in the Dominican Republic. Patria even said, "We cannot allow our children to grow up in this corrupt and tyrannical regime. We have to fight against it, and I am willing to give up everything, including my life if necessary."
The third sister involved in this movement was Maria Teresa, the youngest of the Mirabal sisters. Maria was educated like the rest of her sisters. When she finished with her education, she married Leandro Guzman. Maria was greatly inspired by her older sister, Minerva, who she looked up to, and soon began to adopt Minerva's political views. She too was manipulated, harassed, and arrested on direct orders from the dictator himself. She once said, "Perhaps what we have closer is death, but that idea does not scare me. We will continue fighting for what is right."
The fourth and inactive sister in the movement was Belgica de la Mirabal, also known as Dede, the second oldest of the Mirabal sisters. She is a survivor of the sisters, the one who lived to tell the tale. Because her husband supported Trujillo, she was strongly advised not to partake in the revolution. She raised her sister's 6 children after they passed and even preserved the Mirabal family home as a museum that is still open, educating people on the concealed history of Trujillo's regime. In Dede's book, Viva Sin Su Jardín, she recounted the story of her courageous sisters as they faced multiple challenges in their fight to end the injustices of Rafael Trujillo.
On the night of November 25, 1960, Patria, Minerva, and Maria Teresa were driving home from visiting their incarcerated husbands. Their jeep was stopped by a group of Trujillo's henchmen. The men removed them from the vehicle, led them into a sugarcane plantation, and used a club to beat the sisters and their driver to death. After all the bodies remained lifeless, the barbaric henchmen stuffed all the bodies back into the jeep and pushed it off a cliff, hoping that the event would be perceived as an accident.
The Dominican people realized immediately that Trujillo had ordered the final attack, marking a start of the end of his regime. At the time of their death, Patria was 36, Minerva was 34, and Maria Teresa was 24. This was one killing that could not be forgiven.
The Mirabal sisters' deaths served as the beginning in overthrowing Rafael Trujillo. On May 30th, 1960, 6 months after the murder of the Mirabal sisters, Trujillo was riddled with bullets shot by his own armed forces.
In the end, Las Mariposas fought until death and managed to take down a dictatorship. With this memorable clash against their corrupt government came a long-lasting legacy. To this day, the Mirabal sisters have several monuments standing throughout the Dominican Republic.
Las Mariposas were given a memorial park in Santiago de los Caballeros in the Dominican Republic, where each of them has a bust. In Santo Domingo stands el Obelisco Macho del Malecón, a tall obelisk that Trujillo originally created to honor himself. The Dominican people have now painted the obelisk to pay homage to the Mirabal sisters for what they have accomplished through the overthrowing of Rafael Trujillo. As a result of the Mirabal sisters suffering and struggling, yet still managing to persevere, in 1999, the United Nations General Assembly marked November 25th as the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. On this day, women celebrate the lives of Las Mariposas and protest all forms of violence against women.
Because of the Mirabal sisters' revolution against Trujillo, the Dominican Republic's government has changed drastically. Years after Trujillo's death, a president was appointed to be the head of the government. Elections were now free amongst all people, and those who wanted to change the government no longer had to fear for their own lives. A freely elected liberal democratic government that expressed concern for the welfare of all Dominicans was established. The 1963 Constitution separated church and state, guaranteed civil and individual rights, and endorsed civilian control of the military. Not only that, the Mirabal sisters' own children are now a part of the Dominican Republic's government, making sure that everything is kept in line.
Hay una juventud que no conoció eso, entonces hay que darle la oportunidad de que ellos sepan realmente lo que aquí pasó, para que no permitan que vuelva a pasar.